Hello there, and welcome to my arty corner here on YouTube. My name's Angela Porter, and I'm best known for my grown-up colouring books, and I've done many of them. You can look at them all if you're interested on my Amazon author page. And but my inspiration comes from observation, from nature, from architecture, from prehistory, from manuscripts, from anything that catches my attention really. And I particularly like to draw in a stylised, whimsical way of focusing on pattern and texture, although I do enjoy drawing things from observation as well, though not very often. So thank you for joining me, and I'm just going to say thank you so much if you've subscribed, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please click that subscribe button. It's completely free, it doesn't cost you a penny, but it means the absolute world to me. And also, if you want to know when I release videos, just click that little bell button next to the subscribe one. You'll get a notification of when a video is released, which is most days in the week, but you know. So it's just before 7 o'clock this morning, which is Tuesday the 19th of July 2022, and it's already just a tad too warm for me. According to my computer, it's 24 degrees Celsius here where I live. Yesterday we got up to 33, which I know for some parts of the world is not very hot, but for the UK, that's seriously not good. I wilted like, well, a plant left out in the high sun of a 33-degree day without any water yesterday afternoon. I fell asleep. Made me feel really ill afterwards. But that's fine. I'm okay at the moment. So I'm going to make the most of the slightly cooler time of today, which is very early in the morning, to get a video done. And then the rest of the day is going to be about keeping myself cool and comfortable and, you know, whatever. So, in my last video, I started drawing this third mandala in a series. I've done two previously, and I'll do my best to remember to put links to them in the description. If you're interested, you can see. I'm doing this one in stages to try to keep the videos a bit shorter so I don't get overheated if it does get too hot upstairs. I know, Britishness, and talking about the weather and moaning about, you know, I actually am desperate for rain and coolth. I always am this time of year, it's no different for me. But there we are. So, I said I was going to do this in parts, so I've done the central part and set the grid up for this mandala. So this is done, shadow and highlight I'm going to leave right to the end, or colour. Then I'm going to do this second ring now, today, with you. And I do have an idea in my head, I think. Well, I had two. One of them was I was going to draw this and, you know, draw a circle and bounding, you know, these kinds of little edges, borders I like, not edges, and fill this with flowers, which is really lovely when it's done. You can get a lot of black and white and contrast in that way. The other way I was thinking was of doing these as double lines again, all the way along, so it's kind of like spokes of a wheel, and filling the sections in alternatingly with different patterns, which also appeals to me. The third way is to actually go full out organic kinds of motifs and so on, and seed pods kind of call to me, they always do. Or to fill this with like repeating mushrooms around. With things like mushrooms and with say flowers, I wouldn't even try to replicate the pattern around. It would just be an overall pattern that fills this particular ring in. With something like mushrooms, I could actually put them, say, at these, you know, 8 lines, you know, so 2, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, around there, and then fill something in between, perhaps a smaller mushroom and other stuff, and that would be quite fun. But I don't feel that today. I don't know. I sort of do, because there's so many ways of doing things. I know what I want to do. My head is going, yeah, I've got my No.3 pen. So I'm going to draw a shape that looks like it might be a seed pod, but it's not going to be. Now you can see here, well, it might not be entirely. I've drawn, it's a backwards S, but I've doubled it up to give myself this border, and I am apparently going to thicken this line because I'm drawing along it. Whether I want to or not is getting thickened. And then I'm going to start here and go this way. I'm going to add some rounding there and there, and at the bottom of these lines I'm going to add some weight. I just find this is a really nice way just to finish these little gaps off. Then I'm going to turn this by, actually I think I will do it every other. So again, it's starting at the top, going down and around, then we're going to double that. I'm going to go back to where this kind of crosses over, and go like this. So some rounding there, here, here. Now I've got a tiny little space there, so I am going to fill that with black, because it basically adds a really nice, you know, it emphasises the ring. And these are not going to be identical because I'm drawing them freehand, but I'm using the same form of construction on each one, so they will look like they kind of belong together. So where they're different, I'm not going to stress about this in any way, shape or form, because it's going to be what it's going to be, and at the end of the day it's hand drawn, so it will be that little bit wonky. So how are you all doing? Are you joining in with me in drawing a mandala? This mandala? It'd be lovely if you are, because drawing mandalas is one of these lovely things that it's just, I find it just so relaxing and restful. And so you notice I'm getting, the lines are getting straighter there, so I'm having to go back and look at my first one and check what I've been doing, and making sure that oh gosh, this one's going to be a bit of a potch, but it's okay, it is what it is. There's nothing that can't be fixed. So the problem, when I start talking instead of concentrating, that's when things tend to have a habit of going wrong. So what was I saying about mandalas? Oh yeah, mandalas are lovely things to draw. Well, I think so. That's better shape. Again, it's making sure that this part goes out, touches, and then bends quite sharply back, well, sharply-ish back in. We don't want to follow the line down. I want that space there. But in places where I've missed, I'm not going to fret or stress about it either. So again, I'm just going to darken areas up. I'm also able to see as I go around where perhaps some of the black that I filled in yesterday is a bit patchy. So that's quite nice. So yeah, so as I was saying, drawing mandalas is really rather, well, I find it rather relaxing, and it's quite meditative because of the repetition. And that's true for any pattern, no matter how you draw this, how you draw them. And I'm quite fond of doing monotangles, as they're called, you know, just one pattern on a small tile, you know, paper tile, square of paper or whatever. And I find that really lovely meditative. Now that one is the one I've just drawn. Hopefully you can see that. I'm not checking whether I'm on screen or not, getting so engrossed in that. That one was probably the best one I've drawn out of the lot. I'm happiest with that shape, but you know, again, it is what it is, and all of these are. So there we go. We've got all of these here. Right, let's just finish this little bit off. And I still haven't finished talking about patterns and things. The repetitive nature of patterns and mandalas is something that our brain really likes. It doesn't have to think too hard about what it's doing. Once you've got into the flow of it, it's a repetition. And that is naturally soothing to the brain. And I've also, no, I haven't set my autofocus. I'm having a day, and I headachy this morning. And I have a mug of tea that is almost at the perfect temperature just now. So I've got all of these here. Now then, I'm going to repeat this shape inside, but in a smaller way. And I don't know whether I'm going to actually put a double border around these or not yet. I'm going to try and get them sort of centralised on the line here, but it's I was going to try to keep them all about the same height, but ultimately again it's about repetition of shape more than anything else. So that's quite nice. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to do something to connect these at the top. So I am going to pop in, I didn't put one of those in there, which is fine because I can come back and do this. I'm just popping a circle or whatever shape I can fit in there, just to connect the point of that inner shape, that inner leaf shape, to the top here. And because they're not perfectly centered, perfectly drawn, we are going to get some wonky shapes, but I'm fine with wonky shapes. It's just a way of creating some kind of space here. And that is quite nice already. Now then, this is where the fun begins. I am going to just draw a smaller version inside, like so. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to connect this up there. Part of me is tempted to, part of me is tempted just to leave it floating. I think for now I'll leave it floating, and I can decide then what I do next with these. These floating ones I am going to leave blank and empty because I'd like to add just colour to them, I think, and shadow later on. Maybe they'll get filled with some metallic or other. Now I do want to go round and just round these that little bit, the bottom. Do the same with any of these that I've missed doing. It's just that little touch that just, in my mind, just makes a little, it's that little difference that just, I don't know, just adds that little something, and it feels that everything is deliberately placed as if it's supposed to be here. The other thing I want to add a little bit of weight to is the inside the top. Little bits here. I'm sorry if I'm off the screen. I think I've not really set my camera up the best today. Let's put it down to fuzzy head. Give me a moment while I just lift it up a little bit and move this down. Is that a bit better? Possibly. There we go. So if I've done all of those, I've done all of those, so that's nice. And I'm also going to go and just pop a little aura, or a little, created like this kind of thin border around here. Because again, I like this, I like a little bit of space between sections of a pattern or a motif and other things that I may do. I just think it just helps to separate them in my mind, and it stops things running one into another in an awkward kind of way. Now I do know what I want to do here, and I'm going to use Shattuck in the curved version to fill these sections. Like so, and I'm using my 01 pen for this because I do want this just that little bit finer. Like so, and you just do what you can, the best you can, to fit that in. And I am going to go back, and you know these little bottom sections we've got, I'm just going to fill those in with black ink. Well, yeah, it would be black ink because I'm drawing with black. And then here, where I've started from the corner here and gone towards there, I'm going to do that on the other side as well. Now these aren't going to be perfect you know, sort of like mirror images of each other, but I just think that it will, they actually might actually work out fairly close. We'll see when we get there now. So yeah, that'll do. And then we've got this one here, and I'll just fill that one in black perhaps. Actually that was a mistake, but you can see we've got those patterns. And I'm just going to do the same thing all the way round. I'm not turning my paper because I know it makes, if I watch somebody doing that, it makes me feel a bit dizzy. So I'm just going to work, see how the different shape dictates the kind of way these overlap really. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around all of these to begin with. Like so. There's a lovely rhythm about doing this as well. And with these, the size of the spaces is going to vary as we go up this seed pod, because the seed pod, or whatever it is, isn't even in size really. And so I'm fine with that as well. Okay, so let's do this one. So you just go with the flow and don't overthink it. So they say there's a rhythm, it's a back and forth. And I do like to do these, each of these sections, I like to draw them completely, as I'm doing here, in one go, rather than put the zigzag in and then come back and fill them in. I find this makes more sense to the way my brain works, I think. And I find it easier to work out which way I need to add the, or which direction I need to add the next section in as I go along. This one's finished in a different position to the others, but again, until you if you look at each individual one, it will look like there's a lot of variation in each of these motifs, but the overall impression is one of a repeated pattern. Right, so we need to go this way here. And this is all for drawing and creating, just for fun really. And there we go, this will be the last one here. So, oh, and I missed one out over here. How did I manage that? Not paying proper attention, most probably, faffing around with my fan or whatever. So I do apologise for all the fan noise. Chances I'm going to edit part of this. I've edited out part of this process here, because I can witter on like nobody's business. So there we go. So that's this section. Now then, I need to do something with these spaces, and one of my favourite things is, I guess, to do a version of, well, it's not quite the tweed, but I do like to do something that involves creating a woven kind of pattern here. So I'm just mirroring these shapes and then connecting them back. The first one connects back to this shape to the side, and then you start on that one, as it were. It's easier to see, it is weaving back and forth. And I am going to just draw around here. In fact, perhaps I should have done that before I started. So I'll do another one so you can see what I'm doing, and then, even though my brain is turned to mush, I will finish this perhaps off the camera and come back. So, started there, followed it round up here, and then we're going to follow that shape. No matter how strange the shape is, you do it, and eventually it will sort itself out. You can gradually alter it to make it something that you like, or just let it happen all on its own with how it needs to be. So that's quite nice. This one was an awkward one here, because I didn't really have that kind of space, but that adds something nice to this. So I'll do one more, and then I will finish this, or nearly finish this, and come back to you. So you noticed I'm starting the first line on the left hand side of each of these sections, and if I do that all the way round, this pattern will be consistent. Let's just draw that in as well. So I'm going to finish these off, and I'll be back in a moment. And here we are, just finishing off the last section where I've woven the pattern there. Now this, when shadow and highlights or whatever are added, I'm going to make this area where it's woven appear to be much further away, so it pushes these up. But I'm not going to do that today. And I actually think that I am mostly done here. The only thing I do want to do before I go anywhere else or do anything else is just to draw a border around this. And it is a little bit wider than the others. And also a bit more, oh gosh, I'm losing the plot here. Isn't it great? For so many I can do this really well, and then suddenly it all goes to pot. It's fine though. You know, my problem is that I have a tendency towards hyper-perfection if I'm not careful. And that means that I can get very, very frustrated. Now, the difference just that makes to my mind is it just seems to finish that ring off. It closes it off in a nice way and just seems to say, right, we're done with that. Now we're moving on to the next section. And I love this feeling of layers and of different things. Of course, with this as well, this will be further away. So this is going to be feeling like we'll have these closer to the top, this further away. This will must probably be towards the top. But I'm going to play with shadow in the middle, I think, to make these appear that it bends inwards. We'll see what happens. So I could go and just add some little roundings and weights here. But as I want to add shadow there, I'm not going to worry about that for now. I'm going to leave it as it is and let the shadow or colour I add do its work for me. These I definitely want to leave as they are. I think that they work nicely this way. I really do. And I think they're ripe for colour or for some metallic to be put in there. I think I've made my peace with these dots. They look a bit out of place. I could actually, there's only 4 of them, so we can actually split them up into perhaps some smaller dots or tipples, and they just kind of disappear. You hardly notice if you do it without trying to do it in too much of a organised way. They practically disappear in towards the background, and it's hard to pick that circle shape out. That feels better. That does feel better now. So all that is left to do with drawing is what I'm going to do with this outside space, and that's for tomorrow, because I've got to figure that one out. I need to let this sort of like settle into my head. So the one thing I think I will I want to do, I was thinking about adding, I think I might add some thickness to the base of these shapes. Don't really need to worry about these ones, it's the inside ones. It's from about halfway up. I'm just going to make these lines that little bit thicker at the bottom. I'm not worried about drawing over the patterns that are there because they'll still work. I just think this will just help to start to add that little bit of dimension as well. Mandalas, I haven't really cracked how you add the shadow and highlight really. I think it's a question of thinking of a light source from above, because if you did it, you know, as they're circular and you can view them in any direction, it doesn't make sense to have that kind of shadow and highlight that would work in the same way that a light source would, but it does make sense to make lines, thicker lines, part of the pattern as well. So I just wanted to add some there. I also think I may That would make sense then if we make the top part of these perhaps a little bit thicker. So yeah, so when it comes to adding line weights and so on in a circular motif, I tend to think of them more as part of the pattern rather than a light source. So I repeat it all the way round, but it's almost like there's a light source directly in the centre, so it's affecting everything equally. And I think these then will need that kind of, yeah, that'll work. So I'm making the lines on the inside here thicker towards the top, just to help to add that sense that this is just a little bit different. Again, with shadow and highlight, I'll work to bring this upwards to make this feel more that it's curving up. Each section here is curving upwards like this, which you can't see because I'm off camera. Curving up this way, so from side to side, but we'll see. So I am just popping all of this in. You can see I'm just thickening about halfway down, just so it starts to curve back on itself. And then that just helps to add that little bit of definition there, I think. Oh, that's not very neat, is it? And I'm going to let the rest of this, well actually, I can. Go around like this. As I've done the wrong line there, should have been that one. It's okay though, these things happen. And perhaps just go around these. Just make those that little bit thicker, just to separate these particular motifs out from the woven part. So that's also how I make use of line thickness in some ways, not always. Okay, we're getting there. So that just helps to define these particular parts of the whole and help them to stand out that little bit. So I think I'm done with this now for today. And the next video I do, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, who knows, I don't know. Depends on temperature and how I'm feeling. If today makes me unwell or makes my head worse, I don't know yet. But hopefully you join me for that and carry on drawing your mandala as well. So until then, look after yourselves, take care, keep cool if you're somewhere very hot, and keep warm if you're somewhere really cool. And if you're lucky enough to be at the perfect temperature for you, enjoy. So take care. Bye-bye. Ta-ra.